Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hello.
Oh my goodness. People are talking back. That's so wonderful. This is off to an excellent start because we are going to have a discussion today.
All right.
This is what we're going to do today, a little introduction. There'll be a short video screening that will kind of lay the groundwork for some of the discussion that we're going to have. And then we will discuss and point you to some additional resources before we go. And this, for those of you who are new to the CSA Innovation Network Ideas Labs, and also just the network as a whole, we've got a couple of introductory slides about the network. The CSA Innovation Network is a community of practice of both farmers and technical assistance organizations for farmers. The main focus of our discussions is around CSA, obviously, as you can tell by the name. And the network itself is a place for, it's like a hub for discussions like we're going to have today, for resources, and also for ideas sharing, especially around innovations in CSA, so that together nationally we can be talking about CSA with consumers and also becoming better CSA farmers and practitioners as both organizations and as farmers. The CSA Innovations Lab that you're participating in today is a series. This is the 6th one in the series, and the focus is, as I said, on those topics around CSA innovations. The network is made up of these organizations around the country, as well as all of the farmers that are participating in those organizations and farms that may or may not be affiliated with an organization. So it's a pretty robust network of people, organizations, and ideas. So we're very excited to be part of that network. Our topic, well, I'll do this first. One of the pages of the CSA Innovation Network website, which I would encourage you to visit, has a lot of resources, and the resource library has recently been updated and improved. There are a great number of resources there, and they are curated by people who know CSA through the network. So it's not just a random collection of things, but as I said, a curated list, curated access to these resources. There's also a new, really easy to use page on that resource library where anyone can submit a resource. You can be a curator on this resource library. So please feel free to use that really easy submission button and put some resources in there that you come across so that we can all be part of this network and learning together. Topic for today is CSA, retaining new CSA members during and after the pandemic. So many farms that the network works with throughout the country have seen a big uptick in the number of members signing up for their farms. And so this session is really focused on, now that we have the attention of all of these people, all of these CSA members, how do we keep them involved in CSA in the longer term? So after we view this video, which I'm going to click go on in just a minute, Corinna Bench from Shared Legacy Farm and myself will facilitate the discussion and the question session that we'll have afterward. I'm going to turn it over to Corinna to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad you're here today. I am a CSA farmer at Shared Legacy Farms in Elmore, Ohio, which is a little bit south of Toledo. We have a pretty large CSA, 425 members. We started in 2008, and it's our full-time gig. I would say about 80% of our money or income is sourced from the CSA. So that's kind of where CSA farm. And I also now have a podcast called the My Digital Farmer Podcast, where I try to train other farmers like myself to get better and more confident at marketing and messaging. I feel like I've cracked the code a little bit with how to take good care of CSA members and you increase that retention rate. We went from like a 65% retention. We're now at 88, upper 80s. And so I'm just really passionate about helping other farmers get better at this because I know what a big difference it can make in your peace of mind and in their bottom line if you can ace this. So thanks for having me here today.
Thank you, Corinna. And I will just briefly introduce myself as well, even though you've been listening to me yak on for a little while now. I am Claire Strader, and I am with the Fair Share CSA Coalition in Madison, Wisconsin, also with University of Wisconsin Extension in Dane County, and with the CSA Innovation Network. And I was a farmer, a CSA farmer for almost 20 years, and now I work with farmers doing grower education. And I've been working with Corinna, I think, I don't know, remember how long now, but for maybe a couple years, maybe.
Couple years.
Yeah. So it's really fun to be here with Corinna and with all of you. All right, I am going to click play on this video after I tell you what it's about. This is a video that Fair Share created in the fall last year as we were starting to explore with the Fair Share Coalition of Farms this very same topic around retaining members during and after the pandemic. And so some staff members, I frankly had nothing to do with it. It was really Carrie Sedlak, our executive director, and Liv Froelich, our program manager, who put the video together and edited it together. And what they did is they went out and they asked CSA members to talk about what drew them to CSA, what will keep them in CSA, or what might encourage them to leave CSA. So we're going to use this about 12-minute video as a grounding for our discussion.
Hello, I'm Allison. You might be wondering what these beautiful vegetables are I'm holding. This is a lovely selection of turnips and parsnips that I received from my CSA. So this is my first year as a CSA member, 2020.
Hi, my name is Angela. I have been in a CSA since I think like March of this year.
Hi, my name is Heather, and I joined CSA, I think it was around March or April of 2020.
Hi, my name is Laura, and 2020 was the first year that I joined a CSA.
Hey everybody, I am Tanya Oaks-Smith. I joined CSA in this past year.
Hello everyone, my name is Bill Herman. I've been a CSA member for 9 years.
Hello, I'm Ben. I'm a new CSA member this year. As of March, we joined, my wife and I. We've liked it so much this summer that we decided to join a fall share as well. So we've been getting fresh produce for most of the summer and fall. It's been great.
I joined for 5 reasons. Recommendation through a fantastic friend, safety, COVID, not having to shop the market.
I started after COVID hit.
And also just seeing it as a great way to have convenient, fresh veggies come to my house and also abide by all the safety measures with COVID-19.
We started thinking about this in March when kind of food scarcity and pandemic conditions arose, and we wanted to have a secure source of produce.
Largely in part due to the pandemic, but the want to join CSA had been a conversation in my family for quite some time, and this was the perfect push for us to really take action and make it happen.
We had a little push because we've been wanting to join a CSA for several years, and just this gave us the push to join in the first place.
You know, right now, especially that we know what's going in our bodies and that it's going to make us the healthiest that we can be. And so I guess COVID didn't necessarily poke me to join, but knowing that I'm eating the best stuff that I can eat is one of the most important things right now, I think, for all of us.
Health accountability and planning, knowing that every week I'm getting this box, I've already paid for it, so I have to make sure to have meals planned around this and make sure I'm going to be eating healthy vegetables every week.
My wife and I made a decision that we needed to move towards more of a healthier lifestyle. And so that was the start, because the start of a healthier lifestyle is good nutrition.
It's been great in that regard. We've definitely expanded our horizons with recipes, and we felt healthier for it.
I've been thinking about joining a CSA for a really long time, but also because I have some more time available to me to actually participate, I thought, why not? This could be the year, the year for me to do so.
The fact that we didn't see ourselves traveling this summer a lot, staying at home a lot, being able to cook and have that time to explore new recipes and be more grounded in our home lives.
Community investment, knowing that I'm investing in a local farm, especially living in Wisconsin, it's very important to me.
Because I wanted to participate in local agriculture, especially considering that with farmers markets not really being as available to people, like it's definitely important for the community to come in and sort of support our local farmers.
Why we joined the CSA in the first place was to help sustain and to help build the dreams of small farmers. There are other people whose dream it is to create food or to grow food for other people. And I think that supporting that is an incredible opportunity and an incredible responsibility for all of us.
And just really wanting to be a part of the local farming community in any way that we could support them.
And that's an important aspect of it, is the connection with the farm and that personal relationship, and with that, supporting our local farm economy. That means a lot to my wife and I, and so there's a feel good about that.
We had a perfect experience in the beginning of our CSA share pickup, figuring out what recipes. It was really fun and exciting because my husband is a cook. I do not cook in our family. We have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and we were home because of the pandemic. And so it was really great to not have to go to the supermarket, not have to worry, and really give these amazing fruits and vegetables. We did fruit share too, to our daughter and to feed our family. And it just worked. But then as the pandemic, the numbers got a little bit better. My husband started to go back into the office a little bit. Like I said, I'm not the cook. So it was hard for us to keep up with the weekly quantities that we were receiving. And a lot of things were just going to waste. So it was a little bit of an adjustment it was easier in the beginning, and then we had to make some lifestyle adjustments at the end, and we just felt like, you know, the CSA pickup was like by 6 o'clock, and the pressure of, you know, leaving the office to make sure that you get to the CSA on time. There were just elements of it that for a weekly commitment was a challenge for our family.
One of the biggest factors holding us back from potentially joining a CSA again would be our travel schedule. So our farm allows us to place a hold on a given week, and with the hold we can then have a double share later in the CSA term. And I think that flexibility will help in non-COVID times. So having the option to have a hold on the CSA is a strong selling point for us.
If there was an opportunity for one box a month where it could be vegetables, and then if the farm had eggs and cheese and like, and you got like one box of everything but once a month, I would do that. It was just really the quantity and keeping up with it that really made us say, look, if we have this farmer's market alternative that's readily available and actually a little bit more convenient to purchase, we're still supporting the farms and the farmers.
Then this past summer, I transitioned to a market share and was able to go to the farmer's market and specifically pick what I wanted for the upcoming week. And that worked out great for us, especially in these COVID times.
Convenience, having the box already put together each week.
I would like to continue participating at CSA just because I think it's really fun to have the diversity of vegetables that I'm allowed and not actually picking the things that I buy and not having like the farmer surprise me and then being really creative about what I do with those vegetables in the future.
I love the kind of surprise and delight element of a CSA where like every, Wednesday I would check my email and be like, what are we getting? This is so fantastic. And it would really encourage my husband to be super creative about what we were cooking. The complication was we just didn't know when certain items were going to go bad or the shelf life of what we were given. And I think that one of, a huge opportunity from a marketing perspective would be some sort of order of take care of these 3 things first in your refrigerator and then these 3 and this will stay and you can carry this over to the following week, because it was just, the quantity we couldn't manage. And then we felt like the small for us wouldn't be enough.
At some point we would like to visit the farm where vegetables are coming from, but with COVID conditions, that has not happened yet. I do think that would create a stronger bond for us and the CSAs, meeting the farmers, being able to volunteer, walk the earth, and just chat with other folks in the CSA.
They also have very active social media. So, if I make a different thing, I'll post and I'll tag them, and they include posts within their newsletter so that people can get ideas from what members of the farm are doing. Then you become a member of that community as well. You become a contributor too. So that's cool.
They have a Facebook page that's like a member-only Facebook page where people post recipes and just what they're doing with vegetables, which is inspiring and gives us ideas as well. One of the strong points of our CSA is their communication. We receive updates on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, just in terms of what's going on in the farm. They have kind of volunteer spotlights on a specific volunteer every week, or an employee, either one. And just that sense of community within the CSA. Weekly updates has been very informative, and it really puts a lot of the farming practice in perspective. As a consumer, it's kind of just something you put out of sight, out of mind. But having that communication with the person growing your food has been a little more eye-opening, just seeing things like crop damage and saying, oh, sorry, you're not going to get squash this year because we had a hailstorm and it wiped out the whole crop. And just being upfront with the farmers and knowing what is going on in their world and how it impacts the vegetables and food that we'll be getting. I think that open communication has been very helpful. And it just really, again, creates a stronger tie to the community.
The reason I'm staying with it is that it far exceeded our expectations for our household in terms of the produce that we received and the people that we worked with in terms of our CSA farm.
I think what's keeping me engaged with CSA is how the quality of the food continues, and we've just grown to enjoy it so much. And I just look forward to all this great produce, and just very thankful that I live in an area that I have these types of choices available to us.
So I hope that we can continue participating in CSAs going forward.
Unmute, Claire.
Hmm.
All right. Thank you for watching the video. And we want to start it off with just a little bit of thought about that video before we open it up to questions. So the question that we want to kick it off with is, what did you hear in that video around key concepts that the participants, that the interviewees were mentioning multiple times? What are the key concepts that you heard in there? And then also related to our topic today, what did you hear them say about why they would want to stay with CSA? What is going to keep them in CSA? Corinna, do you want to share some of your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, so don't be shy, you guys. I was taking notes. I've seen this a couple of times now. First of all, I hope that you caught at the beginning of the interviews how excited these people were to be supporting a farmer. And I know I'm listening to that, I was feeling like washed over with affirmation. And it can feel really good to get on the phone and talk to a customer and interview people like this, if only for the sake that it will make you feel really good about being a farmer. So if you've never interviewed customers before, this is my call to action. Try doing this, like call up 5 or 10 people before the season starts and just talk to them for 20 minutes and you'll be amazed at what you hear from them. But I think the majority of them were joining because of COVID. That was something that I noticed. And the majority of them were staying. I was trying to keep track on tick marks. There were a couple of people that looked like they weren't. And their reasons why are kind of interesting. We can talk about that a little bit later. But I made a little note here on my piece of paper here that it seems like COVID has been the trigger that caused people to finally try it. And I don't see as much evidence, at least in these interviews, of, well, now I'm going to stop doing it because COVID's starting to go away. And I find that a little bit encouraging. So I feel like this sort of substantiates this idea that there's a window of opportunity right now that is wide open that we can take advantage of to catch the attention. People have become problem aware in a way they never have before. And they're willing to give it a go and try it. And if we have a good product, in most cases, I think they're going to stay. Now, there are going to be some people that don't fit and will go back to farmers market, but maybe that's okay. So that was kind of one of my big ahas. I have a whole bunch of things, but I don't want to be the only one that talks. So do we have anybody that wants to just share something that they noticed in the discussion that they want to bring up? Please raise your hand.
We also have a couple of people answering that question in the chat box. And so some things that people are saying is some of the education that members want feels like a real opportunity. And this is such a good point, I think, that things that are second nature to farmers in terms of what are the vegetables you need to use first, how do you store the vegetables in order to retain their quality. Those things are really so ingrained in farmers that it's hard to remember a time when you didn't know those things. And so remembering that your CSA members might not know them, that was one of the insights here. And then another person is saying, and how much the social aspect of it and the connection is important for retention for the members in the video. And that is, I think that's such a great thing to highlight also, because we are still talking about CSA. We always say CSA, and sometimes we forget about the community supported agriculture, the full enunciation of those words. Like that community and that social aspect is really embedded in it.
Yeah, I agree that the social aspect, any way that you can create community within your group of people, that is actually one of the things that causes retention to happen. So we don't want to just focus in our efforts on how can I build a connection between the farmer and the customer. That is important. You do that first. But the sooner you can get people to start feeling like they're part of an affiliation and it's not just you and them, that is like cement. So some of the ways, if you guys have some suggestions for ways that you have built community, share that idea with us. I'd love to hear what you do. I know our Facebook group that was mentioned, but for us, it's the Facebook group that drives this.
The community aspect. You have a Facebook group with your members.
Yes. And our members are it used to be when we started that Facebook group that I was the one posting everything. And I felt like, oh my God, when are they going to start talking? And now it took about a year of me really just doing that a lot. And then eventually we started having more and more people feel more confident in what they were doing and sharing their wins and their victories. And now that one lady said it, she feels like she was a contributor. What can you do to make me feel like I'm a contributor? So I'm not just, learning from you, but I can actually help people grow too. And we have people in our group who are like experts at pickles. Some people are experts at grilling, and they all sort of share their knowledge when someone has a question, and that makes a person strive to want to be, at this level. I think that community pushes them and holds them accountable.
Great.
Yeah.
Erin, we would love to hear what you have to say.
Everyone, can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, good. I have technical issues sometimes. I'm not a farmer, but I am a member of a CSA farm here near Portland, Oregon. And I've been a member there for about 5 years. And for my job, I'm actually a professional photographer and videographer. And because I love our farm so much, I had volunteered this past season to create a marketing video for them to help them reach a wider community. And anyways, as a result of that, they are full this year, which is fantastic. And I'm sure there's something to do with the video there. But I think one of the ways when I work with my other marketing clients that's been really successful, to build, Corinna, on what you were saying, is engaging people by asking them questions. So if it's cucumber season, asking your members to post the coolest thing that they made with the cucumbers, or posting recipes and saying, if you try this, please post a photo and tag us and we'll share it on our page. Sometimes people get excited at the idea that they might get a few moments of recognition on someone else's page. That just can feel really good to folks. So that's been an effective tool to get people to engage with you, is to share their stuff and tag you so that you can then reshare.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Erin.
That's great. You can even take screenshots of some of the things that people are posting and put it in your newsletter, right? And say, this is something that we saw in our Facebook group. And when you send that newsletter out, if people aren't on Facebook, they can see, oh, other people are sharing ideas. We used to have a section in our newsletter. We don't do it anymore, but it was like the Facebook group roundup is what I called it. And so I would just have like 5 or 6 bullets of like different things that have been my top favorite things that have been shared by CSA members in the Facebook group that week. And I would put it in there. So it was like, their 5 minutes of fame, to your point, Erin. Yeah. Like they were all hoping that maybe I'll get mentioned, right? And maybe I'll get highlighted. And when you do that, I think it spurs more people to engage and try to be that community. So you almost have to think about like what gets rewarded gets repeated. So if you're trying to create community, then what can you do? How can you reward people for a certain behavior that will stimulate more people to do that? That's sort of a question you have to mull around. You got to figure out, well, what's the behavior I want them to do, and then come up with ways to incentivize it. But people will try to become what you want them to become if you're clear about it. All right, there's lots of people showing up in the chat over here with comments, which I love. Anybody brave and wants to raise their hand and talk, don't be shy. Anything else that jumps out from you from the video of some of the ways that people are trying to deal with retention?
Corinna, while we're waiting for some more hand raises, some of the things that I'm reading in the chat box are the people noticed how valuable choice was to some of the members who were interviewed. Mm-hmm. And I know that you have a really unique perspective on that. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if you would address that issue, because there are a lot of farms that are moving towards market shares or choice shares where people mm-hmm. are trading items in and out of their boxes, and you've taken a different route and you have excellent retention.
Yeah, I think both are viable choices. Both are, CSA is really changing in terms of its description or, its definition over time. We have a traditional CSA, but I think the difference is that we have decided what kind of ideal customer loves a traditional CSA, and they have certain values and behaviors and thoughts that are different than a person who wants to do a choice CSA does. I mean, they both probably value like fresh vegetables. They both probably value wanting to support a local business and local farmer. Those are similar. But for one of them, convenience may be really, really important, or they may want to choose. They may want to have the ability to say, that's what I want. And there's another kind of customer, many of my customers, I can tell you right now, who really don't care about that, you actually heard some of them in this video. There were a couple women who said, I like that my farmer surprises me. I like that they take the decision away from me, so I don't have to decide what to put in my box. Just give it to me, and then I can have fun with it and try to be creative. There are people out there who are like that. And so if I know that that's the kind of perfect customer for me, that's the person I want to attract more of. I'm going to talk about that kind of stuff in my marketing and in my sales process to attract that kind of customer. And I will kind of weed out the people who want the choice model. Now, if I'm willing to offer a choice model as well, I will begin to attract those kinds of people too. But I've just decided as a business that that's not what I want to do. And that's a little bit more work on our end to make sure that in our sales process, we are really highlighting those kinds of values that will attract the person who doesn't need the convenience and the choice.
Mhm.
So it's really just about that, and one of my kind of keys of customer retention is realizing that not everybody should be in your CSA. Not everybody should get one. And stop feeling like a failure if you have people that fall out, because they may just not be a good fit for this way of getting vegetables. And perhaps they would do better with a choice model if you wanted to start that, or maybe just shop at your farmer's market. Maybe it'll be a great farmer's market customer for you. And instead we spend more time trying to figure out who's the ideal client for a CSA share box subscription, and how do they think, and what do they value, and how do I talk to them so that they find me.
Great. Thank you,
Yeah.
Corinna. Carrie, right, has her hand
Yay.
up. We'd love to hear from Carrie.
Hey guys, I'm not giving you video because I'm sharing space with my 7-year-old son, and it's not good.
Hi to your son, and we're happy to hear from you.
So my perspective of this is a little bit different. I'm not a farmer. I am the produce buyer for a local natural food store in Louisville, Kentucky, and Southern Indiana. We work with 2 farms to create a CSA for our store. We have 2 organic farms that work with us. They grow, box, and bring to us. We do the distribution, we do the communication. We take that off. We take the marketing off their hands too. And for that, they give us a share much smaller than theirs, because they are doing the work of the planting, the harvesting, the care for these products. But essentially, I take this marketing end off of their shoulders. So it's been really interesting for us. I also give them pickup spots. I've got 5 locations. So that the CSA customers can come and pick it up at any of my stores, rather than have to be at a certain place at a certain hour, which lets us get those convenience customers a little more.
Carrie, at least for me, you're cutting in and out.
I don't know what I can do to fix that, I'm afraid.
You sound good right there.
Okay, I'm not
Don't
sure what the
move.
difference is.
Yeah.
I'll try not to. But essentially, by giving them multiple store locations to choose from, they can pick a location that's convenient to them. We supply recipes along with the list when we send it out every week, and we make sure that the ingredients for those recipes are there too. So for people who want to still shop, they can. So it's sort of a win-win, naturally supporting symbiosis for us and for our farmers. It wouldn't work for everybody, but if the marketing seems daunting, if you've got a local store who wants to carry local produce and has a following for that, it may be a relationship worth pursuing.
I think we lost
Thank
you right
you.
there at the end, but I think
No,
Corinna,
I think we got
hear?
the gist of, yeah, we got the gist of that. Yeah. So that's, you're just kind of pointing out that there are ways, if you can outsource your marketing, if that's a pain point for you as a farmer, there are ways to give that to someone else to do. The point being, though, that you still do have to have someone who's in charge of contacting and connecting with, communicating with your members, and giving them the recipes, giving them that support of how to take care of the food. One of the ladies really highlighted that she felt like she was wasting a lot, right? Because they didn't know how to store stuff. They didn't know what would perish first. And that's a really insightful tip for you. If you can just come up with, I talk about it as like a training curriculum, but you don't have to go like hardcore. You could just pick out like, what are the 3 to 5 things that I need to make sure my customer knows in order for their produce to last longer, to buy them more time. So for us, like I've identified things like take the tops off your freaking carrots. Like I've seen so many people not know to do that, or like, hey, you got to put your greens like in a bag in your fridge, you know, things that are so easy for us that really aren't second nature for people. So what is that top 5 list? And I found this out by interviewing my customers, like calling them up and finding out this is the stuff that happened to me at the beginning, and keeping track of that and learning from that, and then just teaching my people. But I've sort of narrowed it down to like 5 things I really want them to know. And a lot of that is around the storage stuff, like the shelf life piece. You'd be amazed at how far that goes.
And Corinna,
So that's insightful.
Can you talk a little bit about your process for that? You mentioned that you were calling your customers and asking them questions. Did you have a system about gathering that feedback from your members?
Well, I contacted my best customers. So earlier, remember I told you that I'm trying to attract the ideal client for my business. So I didn't call people that wanted a choice CSA.
Right, got it.
I talked to the people that
deck.
I did, because I wanted to know, how do I clone more of these people, right? What are they doing and how are they thinking about me? And so I called about 30 of them. You don't need to call that many. I think 5 to 10 is probably good. You start to see patterns, and they were the ones that shared. I would just get on the phone with them. I'd call them and say, hey, can I talk to you? They were like honored that I wanted to talk to them. Actually, they were just geeked about it, and talked to them for like 30, 40 minutes. And asked them a whole bunch of questions about their journey. Like, what was it like when you first started? And what are you having a hard time with? And what were some of the things you had to learn how to do really well? What are the hacks you could share, right? Like those I was just trying to figure out what is a successful CSA member look like? And out of that, I saw these certain things emerge, like, hey, certain kitchen tools really help. Like 3 or 4 storage tips would have been really nice to know on the front end. And hey, man, if you could just teach me how to freeze stuff. Like people didn't know at first they could blanch and freeze things. They didn't know about throwing blueberries in a Ziploc bag and putting them in the freezer. Like that seems like super obvious to us. People don't know that. A lot of things like sheet pan meals, learning how to roast, learning how to pesto. So I was like, oh, I should teach people some of these key formulas, or make that a recipe. Like, here's your recipe formula for this. Did you know you can do all kinds of greens with this? Like that kind of stuff then began to show up more in my newsletter and in my Facebook group and my content. And that began to equip people and empower them, so that they didn't feel like they were wasting food, but they also felt like they were growing, right? So that's kind of, I think, another thing about retention is if you have a customer that shows up and for the first year, they think they know what they've gotten into, but they usually hit a wall in like week 4. And if you're not prepared to help them over the pass, they're going to feel like a failure, right? And that's a very negative emotion. Nobody wants to stay in that place. And we don't want people buying from a place of failure. We want them to feel like they're going to renew from a place of success and empowerment. So how can we make them experience a quick win? So my focus suddenly became on how can I deliver a quick win in the first few weeks after they purchase this product, so that instead of that negative emotion, all they see is, I'm a badass. I just learned how to make veggie broth from veggie scraps, right? Never knew that was possible. That's like super cool for people. And so when they do hit the wall, because they will, it's like counteracted, because they've also learned some really neat things, like how to make pesto or how to make hummus that looks pink from beets. They've had this positive growth that you've been the catalyst for, but maybe they've also hit a wall, but it's okay, because they can see that you're actually helping them transform and turn into a better eater, and that empowers them. So there's a little bit of like, you're walking this line. You don't have to go crazy, but I feel like you do have to maybe think about, what can I do to help them have a quick win and avoid the huge pitfalls? Like, I don't want them falling into the black hole. So what are those 2 or 3 places where I know that happens? And like, I'll do whatever I can to make sure they stay out of the black holes too.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because we've talked some about community, and there's a lot of comments in the chat about how farmers are building community and building social connection on their farms.
Yeah.
with and without COVID. And that seems like a really foundational, super important piece of keeping people interested and feeling good that they're supporting their local food sources and the local food economy. And then this piece that you're hitting on right now, Corinna, is really about like the technical aspect of being a CSA member. How do I, as someone who may or may not know how I can preserve vegetables or which vegetables I need to eat first in order to get through my share, how can you as the farmer help those members, like you said, get those wins, get those technical wins, and so that they're not, they can have all the feel good and less of the technical issues that they might experience with
Yeah.
CS.
And I think that's just, we have someone raising their hand. So just a second,
Yeah.
Katie. Yay. So, I mean, that can be done at a very simple level just by maybe changing what you talk about in your newsletter. So maybe you have a certain type of content, teaching content that now you know what's really helpful, what's going to deliver the quick win. Talk about that in the 2 weeks before CSA, and then in the first like 4 weeks of CSA, you're really focusing on that content. And then, but you could also go a little bit more crazy and do stuff in your Facebook group if you have a Facebook group and provide social content there. But at the very bare minimum, you could get away with this by just tweaking what you do in your newsletter. All right, Katie, you have your hand raised.
Hi.
Hi.
Corinna and Claire, and Corinna, I work with the Kentucky Farm Share Coalition and
Oh yeah.
Organic Association Kentucky. And so I work with a group of CSA farms and just provide resources to a really wide CSA member base through Workplace CSA. And we find that there's so many resources out there for folks, but the members really like to have the farmer specific resources. So even though they're all out there, you can find everything on YouTube, all the storage tips, but I just wanted to reiterate or emphasize, Corinna, like people really like to hear from the farm, like what recipe do you like to cook with this? Like versus the general recipe link. I feel like it's again with that community building and getting to know, like having that personal touch. And I just had a couple other points because Corinna, I got to sit down on your talk for CSA member retention a couple weeks ago. And I thought your suggestion or what you do was really helpful. And you might have already said it, but your weekly video that you have a CSA member do that talks about how to store the vegetables, I think it's a really helpful, handy thing that you do as a part of your CSA to really address, because I feel like the storage is, to me, one of the biggest entry barriers into like reducing the food waste. And so I just thought, just for folks on the call, that would be cool to just mention again, you consider doing a weekly video where somebody's unboxing your CSA share and sharing maybe some highlights of storage tips. Because we feel like it's just so valuable to hear from the farm or from the member versus from a general resource about the CSA. And then I'll drop in the Food Connection, and University of Kentucky has compiled a great library too of resources for CSA farmers to share out with their members. And I'll drop that in there as well.
Thank you.
Storage and cooking and other things, even though I'm just going to say, I feel like whatever you create yourself, people will like a lot more.
That's such a great tip, Katie. Thank you. And yeah, you made such a great connection between the technical aspect and then using that to create community by having it be the farmer's own. Courtney, we see your hand. We're looking forward to hearing what you say.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, I thought I had raised my hand a while back and then I realized I clicked the wrong button. Sorry.
We're happy to have you now.
Thanks. I just wanted to, Karina was speaking about the options. Some people were bringing up the option shares, and I just wanted to share kind of, so just a little context. We have a 40-person CSA, so it's a completely different set of circumstances, and we're in Nova Scotia, small scale farm. And a couple of years ago, I got sick and I found myself not being able to eat certain vegetables. And I was like, oh, this is weird. And a lot of people in my family had the same issues. And then it started making me think about the CSA differently and thinking, are there other people out there that are experiencing the same issue? And so then I talked to my partner and I was like, well, what if we started offering options? And he's like, you're opening a whole can of worms. And so we thought about it and thought about it. And we, about 4 years ago, we came up with a compromise, and it seems to work really easy for us. And basically just before the CSA even starts, we send out a Google form that basically says, what are the things that you don't use? And we have them separated in categories like root vegetables, greens, and they just click, which ones. And then we say, let us know what are like the top 10 vegetables that you use. And we basically tell them that you won't get what you don't use, and we'll just auto swap with the list that you've given us, so that they're not wasting, and if there's things that they can't eat, or if there's things that their children refuse to eat. And it's worked really well for us. I initially tried to experiment with like emailing back and forth, and that was like a whole headache, but this seemed to really work for us. But obviously probably wouldn't work if you have like hundreds of people. But I just wanted to share that idea in case people like, are afraid of the option and they feel like they're losing people and they want something to experiment with. So that's just, yeah, my little take on it.
Thank you so much. That's great.
Yeah.
Can you say again how many members you're doing that with? How many members you're doing that system with?
40.
40. Okay, great. Yeah, that helps put some perspective on it.
Yeah.
Erin, we'd love to hear you.
I just wanted to follow up on that last point, which is the CSA farm. I think someone might have said this earlier too, but they have a share bin, just a little trickier during COVID. Although it's not entirely different from reaching your hand into a bin to grab your particular veggies. And I'm not sure how everyone else is doing it, but the farm that I'm a member of, there's like a really specific 1 through 5 cleaning and sanitizing process before they let you enter the barn, and restrictions on how many folks come in. They do not prepackage your stuff for you because there are options, like, pick one, either carrots or beets, for example. And so that allows some degree of flexibility when you arrive. But everybody has to clean and mask up and sanitize, and then you come into the barn. But what they've done is, if you are entitled to, let's say, a carrot or a beet, and you don't want either one of them, you can take whatever you might have chosen and place it in something called the share bin.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been really effective, because there's times where I really wanted to make something amazing with carrots, but my bundle wasn't quite big enough. And so I was able to get a second bundle from the share bin, and that was great. So that's just been it's been a tool I've really appreciated that eliminates some of the paperwork.
Erin, how many people are picking up at that location? Do you have a rough idea of how many members are using that swap bin?
They do a 2-day week pickup. And she has referenced in the video that there was 120 families that are being fed there, and they only have 1 acre of land.
Okay, great.
120 families, whether they all have a full share or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I see in the chat there are a number of people typing in about those swap boxes. Yeah. And one of my experience as a farmer is, if you have to have a critical mass of people at that particular site. If you've only got 10 members picking up there, unless you stock the swap box with something yourself as a farmer, it just doesn't get that. It doesn't have the quality, the value that you're expressing with it. And so, yeah, that 125 seems like more than enough to create that value. Thank you. Easy.
I want you all to just ask the question, what is it that your customer wants? Really dive deeper than fresh vegetables and try to figure out, why are they buying from you as a CSA instead of just going to the farmer's market and buying from you? What is it that they want? Because when you can really identify 1 or 2 things, and then you deliver on those in a strategic way that's repeatable, that's what's going to make them be like, I like this CSA. It's giving me what I want. A lot of this is about managing expectations. People come in any product, like when we buy something, or when we sign up for, if you volunteer somewhere and you raise your hand, I'm like, yeah, I'll help out with that. And you show up, you show up with this set of expectations of what you think it's going to be like, or what you think this product will do for you. And if it doesn't do that, you're disappointed, right? And you might not buy it again, or you might not sign up again. And so we want to know, what are the expectations of our customers? And sometimes they don't know, or they don't fully articulate them, or they can list off a few, but there might be some other hidden ones that they haven't really explored yet, and they're subconscious, and you got to know what those are. So, if they're really hoping that you know their name and like know who they are, and you never and you keep forgetting their name when they pick up the box, whoops, that's a fail, right? That may mean that they're not going to come back, and they may not have realized that, wow, that's important to me. That's what I thought I was getting when I signed up for a CSA. But if it doesn't happen for them, they're kind of like, if they're getting, if in their mind, they had this idea that the box would look like this with these kinds of varieties, and they maybe didn't even know that they had that idea, right? And then the box is more like this. Some of them might be like, that's not what I thought. So that becomes just helpful, not something to berate yourself with. That's helpful information, because then you can take that and either choose to re-educate people on the front end before they buy. Just do a good job of making sure they know this is what it is and this is what it is not, if you need to say that. So in my case, I have to make sure people know that you're not getting as much stuff in the first 3 weeks. I have to say that again and again, so that I don't have people opening up on week 1 going, what? I thought I was going to get this value, right? That kind of stuff is stuff you need to figure out and talk about again and again. So just know what the expectations are. What do they want? And then identify some of those key things that need to happen for them in order for them to feel like they're well taken care of.
Thank you, Corinna. I feel like that's a really great place to wrap up when we're talking about retention. That's the main question to answer, right? What do they want? And then how can you give it to them? So we've got a few, I think Liv is going to pop the session evaluation in the chat. That'll be a link for you to click and give us your feedback on this session. Also ideas for future ideas labs. We're happy to take those in. This recording, as I mentioned earlier, will be available on the CSA Innovation Network YouTube channel, and also on the website for the CSA Innovation Network. And Liliana, our network coordinator, is typically super fast about those things, so you can look for it in the next couple of days. It should be up there. And then while you're poking around on the Innovation Network website, please take a look at this Secrets to CSA Retention, which is a keynote presentation by Corinna Bench, who you've gotten to know a little bit in this session today. She's got I have had the privilege of facilitating a presentation that Corinna did on this topic, and there's some really truly excellent information in there, some of which you heard today, but that presentation in itself is much deeper dive and much richer information on some of those specifics. So thank you so much, Corinna, for being here and being part of this discussion. Thank you to all of you who participated in the chat and through raising your hands and speaking up. It's been wonderful to talk with you all, and we look forward to seeing you at the next Innovation Lab.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Goodbye.